Thank you. All right, we're live. This is a work session. It is 5:30 and we have Anne and Lucy here to help guide you through.
All right, thanks. We'll kick it over to Lucy.
Thank you. So today Anne and I are going to be talking a little bit about the Boxcar apartment site and getting direction on some next steps. So I think Anne is going to pull up a PowerPoint and then I'll let her start off.
Sorry, my audio wasn't working, but it sounds like you just kicked it over to me.
We can hear you.
Okay, good. I can hear you guys now.
Okay.
Okay. Great. I can share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, can you all see the presentation?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the Boxcar site. And a little bit about the site. So when we say the Boxcar site, we're referring to lots 1 and 32 in Anvil Mountain subdivision. And so in this picture, Shrine Road is the dirt road on the left-hand side, 550 is on the right-hand side. The larger buildings at the bottom are the existing Anvil apartments. And so it's located uphill of those. And Lucy, I'll let you give some site history and grant history and annexation history.
Sure. Yeah, so the town was awarded a Brownfields grant in 2023. And a big priority in that grant was for affordable housing. And so we decided to prioritize the Boxcar apartment site as kind of the main site that we were going to be looking at. And so we'll talk about a little bit about what has been done to the site in a minute. But we've been spending some brownfields funding on looking into developing this site. And then additionally, the town annexed the Anvil Mountain subdivision, including this site, in 2024. And previously, the lots themselves were owned by San Juan County. But just recently, after we had the Brownfields Environmental Assessment Phase 1 done, the town acquired the land.
Could you speak a little louder, Lucy? I'm having trouble hearing you. Or turn your volume up or something?
We could probably turn the volume up here.
Sorry, I am a little sick, so I have.
I was going to say, you sound sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need me to repeat that?
It's better.
Okay. Did you guys catch that, or do you need me to repeat anything?
Are you good, Ron, to go forward?
Good, go ahead.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Great. So both the county and the town have been prioritizing affordable housing. The county had the vision for affordable housing development in Anvil, and the town has prioritized it in the master plan and some time before then as well. In 2022, San Juan Development Association applied for a technical assistance grant from the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. And so Lucy and I weren't around for that, or I wasn't at least, but that was a time when the county and the town and other community members sort of worked with a consultant to visualize what Anvil could look like for the remaining vacant lots. And so this is the conceptual plan for the Boxcar apartments. There's some things that we've run into since, and we're going to get into those later. But the idea here is to sort of replicate the existing Anvil apartments. So do low income, affordable rentals for our community. And it includes 14 units, 2 buildings, and a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom. And these conceptual plans are available both on the Town of Silverton website and the Silverton Housing Authority website.
Yeah, so then a little bit on brownfields. So as I mentioned, the town received an $800,000 EPA brownfields grant. And because the boxcar apartment site had previously been designated to be repurposed for affordable housing, this kind of, became our number one priority site. And so we've been working with Ramble and as well as partners to have the environmental assessments done. And then, I'll let Anne go on this one.
In 2023, the town applied for a grant through the Division of Local Government in DOLA and through a funding source called the Energy and Mineral Impact Assistance Grant, specifically More Housing Now. So that's just a pot of money that's dedicated. A lot of it has been going to affordable housing, and we were awarded that early 2024. And the scope of this was engineered site plans with infrastructure plan for boxcar site. But really what we're looking at here is kind of the due diligence process of this site. So what would it take to build here? What are the environmental restrictions or conditions? And we have been working with SGM Engineering, and they've made progress so far. And we'll get into that in a second, but we've expended just shy of half of the funds so far.
And so in terms of what we've accomplished on the brownfield side, we've done the phase 1 environmental assessment. We acquired the land, which is a requirement after you do the phase 1 assessment. And then we have done the phase 2 assessment. And the phase 2 assessment found that there needs to be some remediation or cleanup work done to lots 32 and then open space in between lots 32 and lot 1. And so in order to have the plan for that and the cost estimate for that, that will require a remedial action plan, which we'll talk about in a second.
And Lucy, just to clarify for anybody listening or on the board, so one reason why the two lots are a little bit different in their needs is that, and clarify if I'm wrong, but I remember when we walked the site with you with the consultants, parts of this area did have the environmental assessment when the county had it and did have some cleanup done. And so that's why lot 1 is kind of in a different state than lot 32 is. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's right. Yep. And we did a full presentation on this on March 10th, where we talked through all that. So if anyone is interested in those results, you can go back and watch that. But that's right. Lot 1 had been previously cleaned up with the rest of Annville on a project that the county did, and lot 32 and then that open space had not been cleaned up. So the phase 2 results found that lot 32 and the open space needed to be cleaned up to the same level as lot 1 and the rest of Annville.
Yeah, thanks.
And then from the More Housing Now sort of site engineering project side of this project, we have 2 initial site plan options that we'll go into next. And with those site plans, they provided cost estimates. There's a geotechnical study done and a boundary and topography survey completed as well. So that's where most of the funds have gone to so far. So this is what I'm calling site plan A. This one I prefer more, but we'll get into that. So this mirrors roughly the staggered layout of the existing Annville apartments. So it's 2 different buildings, 14 total units, 14 parking stalls. And in the back, there's gonna be drainage, because this is a sloped hill. There's drainage around the back. And the bigger building takes up a significant portion of lot 32. Since this site is located on a hill or next to a hill, there will have to be significant slope stabilization efforts. So our consultants are proposing a soil nail wall, which to my understanding is really long rods that they're going to put into the ground. But the soil nail wall for slope stabilization has some serious cost implications. And so we're looking at just shy of a 70 or $700,000 cost to get this site ready to build on, and this excludes any environmental cleanup. So this is slope stabilization, drainage, putting in infrastructure, but not necessarily the cost of the infrastructure. So a pretty significant site preparation cost here. Any questions on this one before I move to the next one?
So that doesn't include the infrastructure cost. I'm sorry.
I don't think so. Let me double check,
Earthwork.
but like to get everything up
And that doesn't
there,
include the environmental work. So what is
Right.
that? What is that doing?
it's the soil nail wall, so slope stabilization.
So
It
that's
includes grading. But some of that can be, there could be a lot of interplay between the scope of the environmental remediation and the site preparation. And so we don't have exact numbers on that because we don't have a remedial action plan yet. But yeah, that cost is the soil nail wall. And
It's a
you know what?
really expensive site to build
It's
on.
expensive and the scope isn't totally clear. I didn't want to bring our engineers on board for this because they're expensive and we're yeah, but
clearly.
we can bring them in later for clarifying questions.
A lot of tree removal as well.
Yeah, I
One
mean, there's a
thing
lot, it's why building on the hillside is expensive. This is
Right.
not an infill, nice flat lot.
Something else that I wanted to point out, it might be really hard to see. This is included in your packet though. There's a faint green, sorry, red line that cuts across most of lot 32. So this denotes an avalanche zone. So something interesting about Anvil is that since it was just annexed into town, we don't have an avalanche study for the neighborhood. So this is based on the county's avalanche map. And so this is really what we're getting after today will be direction from you all to pursue an avalanche study just to see if we can even build here. But we'll get to that in a second. So the next option is much cheaper, and that's because maybe not much, but a little bit cheaper. That's because it's taking out less of the hillside, so the soil nail wall starts here rather than on the far left side of the property. But same sort of drainage plan. And it's in less of the avalanche zone. But this is option number 2.
Is that the same number of units, same number of parking spaces, Anne?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and something else that is still an unknown is Tri-State has an easement behind the property under the high transmission line. And so it's still an unknown if we'll have to get an easement on the easement for the soil nail wall for slope stabilization. But yeah, I don't have clarity on if we can do that. But the nails are underground. So I think it would be okay. So we can come back to questions, but these are sort of the next steps. So um, again, the purpose of this grant, the More Housing Now grant, was to work through the due diligence of the site. So looking at the feasibility of it, and what we did run into is that lot 32 is in an avalanche zone according to this San Juan County map. And so we're hoping to get a site-specific avalanche study done to see, it would have the blue and the red zones like the rest of town does. So that would give more clarity. This was an unexpected expense, but our contractors have said that there is wiggle room, that we can include it in the grant budget as is. However, they have said that if we find out that like, hey, we can't build on lot 32, let's rework the site plan to try to fit more of it onto lot 1. Then the changes to the site plan will be additional costs from the engineering perspective. And then
Potentially additional costs over the remainder of the grant.
that's correct.
Okay.
Thanks.
And then Lucy, I'll let you get into what the brownfields next steps and budget implications are.
You're muted, Lucy.
You're muted.
Thank you.
Yep.
So the next step for this site would be to have a remedial action plan done. And a remedial action plan lays out what needs to be done to clean up the site, as well as a cost estimate on all of those activities. This is something that we would only want to move forward with if we had plans to clean up the site. So this is part of the reason why we're coming here today to talk about having an avalanche study done prior to having the remedial action plan done, because we want to make sure that this site is truly viable to build on prior to having the remedial action plan done. Additionally, when our brownfield contractors were here in March to present on the phase 2 findings, Anne and I sat down with them to kind of talk about some of the constraints on this site, including the slope stabilization. Their kind of idea was that through the remedial action plan, work, they could see what we could accomplish through the remediation or the cleanup of the site to do some of that slope stabilization work to potentially bring down the site preparation cost, and put that kind of put the cost of that, part of that could be paid for through the brownfields grant through the site cleanup. So that's the next step for that. And then once we have that done, then we can move into cleanup and then get the site ready for site preparation.
Great. And I did misspeak. That cost estimate did include infrastructure. I've been in a
Okay, good.
I've been in a conference all day and I am fried. So you'll have to forgive me. But I believe the cost estimate is in your packet. But yes, it does include infrastructure. So sorry for that.
And when you say infrastructure and the packet says utilities, we mean putting in water, sewer
Water,
pipes.
yeah.
electric.
Yeah,
That's huge. Like,
Yeah, no, that-
I'm like, if we're paying that, I'm not sure what.
totally.
yeah.
Yeah, good catch.
Yeah, great.
Yes. But that's a big cost.
Yeah.
So, disclosure here, this is my work, so it's educated guesses, really preliminary cost estimates using the numbers that we're seeing for the townhomes, numbers that our consultants prepared for the Zanoni property, so sort of extrapolating from there. Just the construction. Well, so site plan B with the parallel buildings would be the lower end of this estimate. The staggered buildings is the higher end of the estimate. This doesn't include environmental cleanup. This is assuming $290 per square foot construction costs, and that's just hard costs and no soft costs. And that fluctuates and would be like severely impacted if we had to build to avalanche zone standards. This would be the square footage, 14 units, some really affordable construction loan estimates here. Availability of funding was assumed. This would be the AMI distribution. We can play around with this too. This was me just trying to get to a point where the units would be able to cover the expenses of the construction loan financing. But this would be the area median income distribution. This would be the maximum rental rate. So, which is published by the Colorado, it's published by HUD, by the state, and sort of the gut check from me and our community, I think, is the maximum affordable rental rate is actually quite high. And so we can get into what those numbers would look like, but these would be technically affordable, but we're really pushing how much income we would need to cover everything. This assumes a deferred developer fee, so we would be developing this. The housing authority would serve as the developer, and it's about $200,000 a year in operating expenses. So this would be a big lift, especially for maybe our first project for affordable rentals. But I just wanted to at least have some sort of estimate for us when we're talking about like what is it going to take to build this.
I have a question. 14 units, 7,500 square feet is like 500 square feet a unit.
Yeah, so it's 10 one bedrooms.
Okay.
No, maybe 12. I don't have it in front of me. It's on our website. I can look it up as well. But yeah, these would be extremely space efficient units.
Okay.
And what's we sort of need a lot of units in order to generate enough income for our expenses. So, and just to house more people. But this is working off of the technical assistance conceptual plans that we have.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be adjusted, but yeah, when we're looking at like site constraints and building footprints, really trying to maximize the number of units while also having a range of unit types.
What I think too, oh, go ahead, Tyler.
Oh, well, the one thing I was just looking at, like the total square footage that we can get for 14 units, which obviously the mix is going to change, but I mean, we're, possibly going to pay $700,000 in site preparation for 7,500 square feet, which, I mean, we need it. Obviously, we need the units. That's just, I'm trying to get my head around that.
Well, and this, I mean, not to steal your thunder, Anne and Lucy, but it may come to a point where like, this is not the right project for this site, or this is not the right site for this project, or this is not the right project at this time. I mean, we all know that affordable rentals is absolutely a priority, and if it just doesn't pencil out, it doesn't pencil out.
Yeah, I don't know if we're quite, this is so hard because it is possible. At this point, we're assuming we're not in an avalanche zone. It is possible to build here. I do think that we could do it. Would it be expensive? Yes. Could we do it? probably, but we're still working through our due diligence and like Lucy and I talked a lot about how we wanted to present this tonight because we may get the avalanche study and find like, oh, we can't build here at all. So we
Right.
could totally dive into the weeds here. But again, it's not a completely informed conversation because we don't know yet if we can build here and what that would look like.
Yeah,
Um,
and we currently have funding to spend to continue the due diligence.
Say that again, Dana.
We have funding to spend with the More Housing Now grant to continue doing our due diligence.
Right.
When is that funding time period? When do we have to spend it by?
It was going to be next month, but we have requested an extension for 12 months.
Gotcha.
So
Okay,
May
thank you.
2026.
All right, we can keep going through this. I really appreciate Ann all that penciling out. That's a lot of work to do, get all of those details when you have a lot of information that is unknown.
Yeah, I mean, so much of this is unknown. So like, please take this with a grain of salt. It may be way more expensive, way less expensive, but I really just wanted to like at
It's
least
going to be
throw
more
something
expensive in a year. It's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And I just
Um,
want to note another big part of this is if we do move forward and we do have the avalanche study done, and we decide it makes sense to move forward with the remedial action plan, there's a chance that some of this site preparation costs could be absorbed into the brownfields grant, reducing some of these expenses. So that's also a part of this.
And something else to keep in mind too is like in other communities, towns are buying properties. And I mean, we have too. So while we don't have like the real estate fee, like maybe our site development fee is sort of making up for what we got in extremely subsidized land. So it's
Right,
hard to
right.
find like where is the ballpark? Does it even out? Is it justifiable? Yeah. So really what we're looking for this evening is direction to conduct a site-specific avalanche study for the boxcar site using the More Housing Now grant funding. We have a cost estimate and a proposal for this. And the future scenarios that we see based on the outcome of the avalanche study, we see like 3 different options. The first one, which we're really hoping for, is that the avalanche study shows that we can build based on the current proposed site plans, either one of them. And then that would be sort of, I think, a valid point to at least keep progressing and considering the option. Second is the avalanche study shows minor impacts to the current plan. So maybe that's, sorry, maybe that's right. Can you guys hear that bell? Oh, that's good. Okay. The avalanche study shows no impacts or minor impacts. So it's just maybe we have to rework the plan so that it's all in lot 1. So that would be a point where we would need to find more funding or allocate funding to continue with these site plans. Then the third is that the avalanche study shows major impacts on the current plan. So kind of what we have right now is that most of lot 32 is in the avalanche zone. And then at that point, construction costs are going to skyrocket because we have to build differently and or the avalanche zone covers so much of the property that we have to significantly reduce the number of units. So again, the number of units is, I don't know if 14 is the magic number or if we can go down to 12 or what that looks like. But once we significantly reduce the number of units, that just drives up the cost per unit, making it probably impossible. So yeah, that's what we have prepared for you all today, and we can discuss it more. We can leave it at simple direction to just go for the avalanche study, or we cannot go for the avalanche study. yeah, we can discuss our options here.
Jim, you had a question? Yep.
Thank you. And I apologize if this was already discussed. For $3,900, I think the study should be done. And because it could save us hundreds of thousands down the road. When's the soonest we can get that study?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I can get back to you on that one.
All right.
Maybe if we move on to the next question, I can look back through the proposal, but I don't recall a date.
Oh, sooner the better.
I agree.
It seems like spending the $3,900 from a grant that's already awarded makes a lot of sense because it answers a ton of questions for us. And we're kind of like taking one step further down the road and one step further down the road. I certainly don't want to throw, good money after bad, but we're in this process of doing our due diligence. So this seems like the obvious next step for money that can easily be budgeted.
Yeah,
So that'd be my recommendation.
Yeah.
Oh, and then maybe from there, then we dive into the weeds and have the larger discussion around like.
Yeah, I think it's like the only next step right now to
Yeah.
be able to move forward.
Jim, it's within 90. Oh,
Could this brownfield grant money be used for something else or this project specifically?
Well, that's a good question for Lucy. And why don't you answer Jim's question and then Ron has a question that was similar to one I had. And go
it
ahead.
says, our work can be completed within 90 days of contracting. So,
Okay, thank you.
So Lucy, did you hear Ron's question? Like if we spent some of the
Mhm.
brownfield cleanup money on this, but then it's still a really expensive site to build on, is that taking away from other areas that we'd want to use brownfields money from?
Yeah, that's a great question. So like I said earlier, this is kind of our number one priority site. But if if it doesn't make sense to move forward with this, then I think it's time to probably sit down with the board and have a brownfields site prioritization conversation and maybe look at some other options. Right now, the only other site that we're working on is the Lackawanna Mill site. And so we have had a phase 1 and a phase 2 done on that. And that was also presented on in March. And the next step for that is to have a structural assessment done. And then that is kind of the last piece to kind of inform, maybe what do those next steps look like for that site. But other than that, the Boxcar and the Lackawanna are kind of our two main sites right now. But if there was another site identified, we could potentially do that or reprioritize our funding towards that site if it was an eligible site for these expenses.
Could we use any of this money for the Zanoni property?
The Zanoni property is not eligible for this funding source.
It's not what?
Eligible? Uh-huh. Because it doesn't have the same sort of impact area or?
So the reason that it's not eligible is because it was purchased prior to having a phase 1 done. And so through the CERCLA law, it is not eligible. We can't spend brownfields grant funding on it. So it will have to be remediated through a different funding source, such as CDPHE's brownfields cleanup program. And we just had a cost estimate done for that. So there will be other avenues to clean that site up.
This is why we had to do such a specific process with how we acquired these lots and the timing, right?
That's right. Yeah. So that's why we had the phase 1 done while it was under the ownership of San Juan County. And then within 180 days, we had to acquire the site. And then we could start on the phase 2. And then because we acquired the site in that time frame, that's why we could spend our brownfields funding on the cleanup.
How old is the county's avalanche map and what are the differences between what they allowed built in avalanche paths and what we do? Like, is it absolutely necessary to redo the avalanche plan or can we use theirs?
That's a great question. So the county's avalanche map is a USGS map from the late 1970s.
Okay.
And it is quite a bit
Yeah.
different from the town's more updated map. So if you compare the two, you know, with what's in the town and what's in the counties, it's very different. So we expect to see potentially a different avalanche path in this area. Additionally, it doesn't have a blue zone or a red zone, and our land use code differs how a site can be developed, whether it's in a red zone or a blue zone. And an avalanche study would be required no matter what, according to our land use code. So
Thank you.
it makes sense to have one done. Mhm.
Great. That's great information.
So thinking about moving forward, I know we're all sort of struck with like how this looks like moving forward, where to spend these funds. The More Housing Now grant is specifically dedicated to this site, right? Like we're not looking at spending this in a different way.
As our current grant agreement is written now, yes, it's for the boxcar apartment. I don't know if it's a possibility to request it be moved to maybe Zanoni, but I can look into that if we get to that point.
Well, it seems like unless there's major board opposition, if we can move forward with the avalanche study and then we have more information around what this then looks like. Or is possible. What does the board think? Is there opposition to moving forward with the avalanche study and then regrouping?
To me, it looks like this is not a good buildable site. We're gonna take a tremendous amount of money to try to fix it, to make it work. And if it's anything like the apartments by it, you're gonna have continual water issues. You know, right now we need site prep, we've got avalanche issues, we have remedial actions. I'm just not sure this is the best piece of property to put this on.
Well, our option, I mean, I hear what you were saying, Lucy, and Anne was sort of like, it's not necessarily the parcel that the town would have gone out and bought to put units on because it's complicated and expensive. But the town also wasn't going out and finding funding to go out and purchase flat infill lots to build units. And so you either sort of have like the cash to buy a more desirable lot, or we have the cash to clean up a very low cost acquisition lot. So when you think about it in terms of like property or assets that the town owns, what's the best and highest use for this? But it may turn out that it just simply doesn't pencil out. We can't get a loan. We can't make it affordable. We can't make it work. So seems like there still are quite a few unknowns here. I guess sort of the question I have for the board is if we, let's say it costs 500,000 to remediate these lots and make them buildable. So that's 500,000 you could take that money, it's not all the same accounts, but you could take that money and remediate the lots and build on it, or you could take that money and purchase other lots in town. So it's sort of the question is like, for $500,000, could you get another lot in town? I don't know if we have funding sources to go get another lot in town, but you know, you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. If $500,000 is enough to to buy something that you could put 14 units on. But.
And I mean, could the Brownsfield grant could cover some of the remediation costs, right? It's not.
But it can cover some of the remediation, which may help the site layout, but may not.
Yeah, so when we were saying remediation, we're talking about doing the actual environmental cleanup. And so that's what the Brownfields grant would cover. Through that remediation, they could also potentially help with some of the pre-development costs, typically the slope stabilization, which is the most kind of expensive part of that proposal.
Mhm.
So we would need to see the remedial action plan to see what those numbers looked like. But that's what the
Well, that
brownfields
was the,
grant is for
avalanche map.
the remediation.
Ron, are you, so what I'm trying to tease out kind of your perspective and what you're thinking, or is your preference that we wouldn't even move forward with the avalanche study?
That's my
Um,
preference because I just don't think it's a good lot. If that was my lot personally,
Mhm.
and I had to choose whether to build on that lot or not, I don't think it'd be economically feasible. And I think you're gonna have too many issues with, you've got a retaining wall, you're gonna have water running down, you're gonna have water in the crawl space,
Mhm.
you're gonna have parking issues. For this kind of money, I would rather see us look at something else, whereas there won't be as much work to be done to get ready just to build on.
But we got the lots for free. So you get the lots for free,
Maybe
but you
there's a
have to
reason you got
invest
the
in the
lots for.
cash, to build on them, or you invest in the cash to buy a lot that doesn't have as much.
Which we can't use this money for, though.
Correct, right.
That's why I'm leaning towards the avalanche study, because we're so limited in how we can use the money. But I will say, if it came back and it's like, we need to build up to avalanche code, that's gonna just be a non-starter. And I mean, even with that, we also have limited property in town.
Mhm.
That's the only other, right?
And everything else is so expensive too, I feel.
Okay, this is an interesting example. Like, let's take, for instance, available for sale. The hardware store, right? It's 6-bedroom, 4-bath listed at $988,000, right? And you could raise that up, you could pop the top, you could make it bigger, but that in and of itself is an example, like, I hear what you're saying, Ron, is like, is it throwing good money after bad to develop out lots that are not super economically viable, but at the same time, we got the land for free. So if you're just looking at equal scenarios of, we have $700,000 to spend to buy land, or we have $700,000 to spend to do site prep. It's kind of the same discussion. And we have a situation where we potentially have an option where there is grant funding, there's brownfields funding available to help support some of the site prep, but not all of it. So I think it is a tricky scenario, but I think if we're thinking about, okay, if the town wants to support housing in general, we have grants to help support housing. Even though these lots are not ideal, of course, we would prefer, I mean, it'd be better to buy this block and build it up, but that's also not the cash.
If we got to the point where we were like, they're buildable, but they're just not cost effective.
Mhm.
I mean, can we sell them?
Well, I also had I mean, we're going way down the road into the weeds, but I think there could be we can also have larger discussions around how to use it. Can you use one and not the other? Do you do some sort of public-private partnership? Like, let's say a private developer wanted to do a subdivision. In our subdivision agreements, you have to dedicate part of it to open space. Well, we could say, oh, great, we've got this great hillside slope that can be open space and a park, and we'll give it to you if you dedicate a few affordable units or deed restricted units on your property, whether that's something totally not connected to this unit or what. I feel like there are options. We really don't know what the options are. The final, like, either nail in the coffin or way to move forward is deciding the avalanche study to me. I think, Ron, your perspective is incredibly valid, but I think moving one more step down the road help get us like the deciding point of what we can actually do and how expensive it's
I agree.
be my thought. But I think we will be back having the same conversation because these lots are not going to be easy.
I guess, yeah.
And I mean, this is what this funding is for the due diligence to see, can we build here? And so I think as we work through these different stop-go points, it's important to have as much information as you can to a certain extent, as far as how much that information costs. So yeah, I totally recognize that this is a difficult site. Um, but we do have funding to work through this. So yeah,
Yeah, I think from perspective, like an infill lot on Green Street is 450,000. You know, the Highlander that has however many units is 2.4 million, right? Like I think
But in the
The-
future, there may be lots available that we don't know about yet.
it's possible, but the funny thing about grants is that you can sometimes use them for complicated things like this because it's brownfields and you can't use them for other beautiful, lovely infill lots or to buy an existing apartment building. So we're kind of have to play the game as the rules are written with funding, because this isn't coming out of the general fund. This is accessing funding that's out there to do certain things. So I don't know. Anne and Lucy, do you have any sense from Ramble or others? I mean, it sounds like the sense you've gotten from SGM and from Ramble is that, look, there's potential to use some of the brownfields funding to do some of the site development. And we really don't know what we don't know until we have the avalanche study to really move forward or not.
Yeah, that's right. I think the avalanche, if we get the avalanche study back and it makes sense to move forward, you know, if in one of these good scenarios where maybe the site plan isn't impacted too much or it's not impacted at all, once we have the remedial action plan, that's when we'll get a much better sense of how much the pre-development work is actually going to cost and how much of it can be included in the actual remediation of the site. And so far, Ramble feels pretty good that a lot of the slope stabilization could be included in the cleanup, in the remediation, but we just won't know that. We won't know the extent or any cost estimates until we have the remedial action plan done. And additionally, just to kind of piggyback on what Dana was saying earlier, like we have this brownfields grant money for a site like this. Like this is how we need to be spending the brownfields money, whether it's this site or another site, but we have this money available. And we have, I think, a little over $600,000 of it left, and it needs to be spent by 2028. So just
Yeah.
want to put that out there as well.
And that money is not available to purchase an infill lot or to buy an existing apartment building or to do those kinds of things for housing. So it's a way to leverage. It's all about, for a community that's so tiny like ours, it's about leveraging funding to get the next thing that can leverage the funding.
Yeah, and if you can, I guess it wasn't clear that we could use, hopefully, we could use some of that money for site stabilization, then that, but again, that's further down the road.
What's the board thinking?
Yeah, that's right.
Go ahead, Lucy.
Sorry, I was gonna say, that's right. We really won't know the full picture until we've had the avalanche study and the remedial action plan done.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like somewhat direction to move forward with the avalanche study. Is that?
Yeah.
And then,
Good with that.
Ron, I know that's not your preference. Thanks for your thoughts. All right, it sounds like there's staff direction to go forward with the avalanche study, and we will look forward to hearing good news.
great. Thank you for the
Thank you.
direction.
Thank you guys for that thorough presentation and update, and just I appreciate kind of helping us know in advance what might be coming.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So we will work through it as we learn more.
All right, well, and we'll give you a few minute break. And then we'll reconvene at 6:30. And all right, the time is 6:30. This is a regular meeting of the Silverton Housing Authority. And I will kick it over to you, Ann. And oh, in attendance are all trustees except for Lindsay Halverson and Carl Schnicker.
Great. The first agenda item is public comment.
We have no public comment in person. Do we have anybody online who would like to make a public comment for the Housing Authority meeting? If you would, you can click the raise hand button and we'll promote you to panelist. Great, seeing none, we'll close public comment.
Dana, I did want to take the public comment opportunity just to mention that the board and I received a public comment from Jordan Bierma about AMIs and specifically the rental rate associated with that. And so I was hoping for some direction as far as how to go about that.
Sure, thanks, Ann. Let me pull up just a second. So, and just a little background for the board, Jordan came to coffee with the mayor as well, and we had a great conversation just around kind of, if the town uses AMI to help set like averages for affordability or for salary, you know, kind of anticipated salaries and whatnot, it can sometimes present a skewed perspective because we're such a small community, right? So if there's someone in that survey data for the AMI, the area median income, that has a really significantly high income, it can skew everything higher than maybe is the actual experience of renters, workers in Silverton. So Jordan had some ideas and a proposal. And his kind of idea was like, if the housing authority is posting AMI and kind of posting what might be considered affordable rental rates, but they're based off of salaries that are actually higher than what people are actually making in the community, then it's kind of like a false representation of what might be affordable rentals in the community. So he had been working with some community members on some rental guidelines as like, hey, this is a way that we could help contribute. We've come up with it in this way and done this research in this way so that it's not solely based on the AMI. So I think what I hear you saying, Anne, is you'd like some guidelines or recommendations from the board on those rental guidelines and how or if the board wants to move forward in presenting those in some way on the Silverton Housing Authority website. Is that your question?
Yeah, I think Jordan or Critical Mass requested to present to the board and have a more robust discussion about that. I did want to bring to your attention that rental control or AMI adjustments was not on the work plan, which we are discussing today. And realistically, with staff capacity, I don't think this could be explored with the attention that it deserves until July at least. So I did just want to give that background. Of course, they're always welcome to make public comments, but as far as dedicating staff time to research and research of the implications on this, that wouldn't happen until the summer.
Thanks for that. So I know all the board members got the email from Jordan with the proposed guidelines, hearing kind of this background and Anne's perspective, and also knowing that we're going to be talking about the work plan. Any suggestions or thoughts or ideas on how the board wants to move forward?
So is this just a like recommendation for renting, or does he want us to switch over to these guidelines for the affordable rentals and housing? I'm just confused on, I didn't even know that we can adjust the AMI to begin with.
It sounds like your question, Amy, is like, how would we use this information? How would we use these suggested rental rates? Is that your question?
Yes.
I mean, I think that's what would take some preparation on my end of what do we do with these? What are the implications of these?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think it's more of like direction to have that as an agenda item at a future meeting, to explore what this would mean.
Okay.
I think what the feedback I got from Jordan, and again, I encourage him to come and give public comment or engage with the board, but was kind of like, if the housing authority has any sort of rental rates listed on their website and a landlord goes to that and says, oh, well, an affordable rate is X, but then based on maybe more nuanced data about what people's salaries actually are in town, an affordable rate is Y. Then it's kind of this presentation on the official Silverton Housing Authority website that landlords can say. He was just citing examples of landlords saying, well, the housing authority says this is affordable, so it's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's, but I think what I hear Ann saying is just, again, we have to think about how would we how would we present this? And maybe we don't have to make it too complicated, and maybe it is more complicated than we think.
I mean, whenever you have the capacity, I'm fine with putting on the agenda later in the summertime for him to present.
Yeah, I think his biggest feedback was the area of our website where we say, what is affordable housing? And for a lot of our subsidized programs, we are completely restricted on what we get to label them as. But we're also specifying on the website, like affordable rental rates are 30% of our income, and if our income is based on AMI, then that's discrepancy, so. Thoughts
And I
from the
think
board? Yeah, go ahead,
for-
Ann.
Just for the sake of time, because this is a short meeting and we have a couple items to move forward, I think it'd be best to just have like consensus from the board, like, do we want to have this on the agenda or not?
Thoughts?
My thought is somebody else maybe could come in with another idea, another skewed system. And I'd just kind of like to see us stay with the standard that we're using now.
With AMI.
I mean, you can get 100 different presentations, 100 different ways.
I mean, I'd just like to hear kind of how we got all of these numbers and get a deeper explanation of what he's saying, you know, to hear him out, but
But maybe do it when Ann has,
whenever she has the yeah, I don't want to rush it.
and that might be dependent on whether we would get the townhome grant.
Right, so not like to set a date right now, but just in the future.
Does that help, Ann?
Yeah, as long as there's board consensus there.
Tyler, did you have a different,
No, whenever she has time, it's fine.
like, later on? Okay, yeah,
Great.
all right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Next on the agenda is approval of the March 10th meeting minutes.
Do we need to make a motion? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is that?
I'll make a motion to approve the Silverton Housing Authority minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Wakefield,
Yes.
trustee Gardner,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Pro Tem Harper.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. All right, Ann, we'll keep you moving.
Resolution 2025-04 is a resolution of the Housing Authority of the Town of Silverton adopting the 2025 Anvil Townhomes LLC budget. So back in 2024, I think it was November, the board created an LLC. It's a single purpose entity, 100% owned and managed by the Silverton Housing Authority. And this was created to assume the legal and financial risks associated with the Anvil Townhomes development. And the resolution with the proposed budget in front of you, these numbers were already adopted in the Silverton Housing Authority's 2025 budget. But since the LLC is its own entity, there needs to be it needs to be separated from the Silverton Housing Authority fund. So it needs to have its own fund for accounting purposes. And so this budget, again, it's the same numbers plus I want to say a little bit more because we got more money from the county. And some new codes just to have greater clarity on our accounting for each line item. But this is just procedural to create the new fund for the LLC. Any questions?
So we're gonna have to do this for probably all of our projects, it looks like.
Yeah, it's industry best practice just to
Okay.
keep projects isolated to their own entity. But yeah, it has been a learning process to figure out how this fund is related to the housing authority and then therefore related to the town. But we've been working with our accountant and our auditor to figure out the best way to do that.
Right.
I like everything's broken down by project.
Mhm.
I think it reduces
Mhm.
liability.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, if there's no opposition, the motion is on page 8, the packet.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-04, a resolution of the Housing Authority of the Town of Silverton adopting the 2025 Anvil Townhomes LLC budget.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Wakefield,
Yes.
trustee Gardner,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
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 Awesome. The next one is an update just about the Anvil Townhomes. So I expect to find out about the Colorado Health Foundation grant this week or by the 22nd, so any day now. But in order to keep the project moving, we, when I say we, I mean me and our development team have been working with different banks to explore financing options for the construction loan. And we received term sheets and proposals from 5 different banks, and First Southwest Bank was able to find some impact investing. So a part of the loan will be a much lower interest rate. So it's the most competitive rate. So we have been pursuing that option. So we're starting with the loan application. We're not at all agreeing to any terms yet because obviously we don't have the full funding. But in order to continue through this loan application process, I do need minutes, so direction from the board that reflect that the Silverton Housing Authority, who again is 100% member and manager of the LLC and acts on behalf of the LLC, to draft a resolution for the construction loan. And I'll present that at a future meeting with the official term sheet. And that can be a much bigger and more robust conversation that it deserves. But at this time, just direction to start drafting that resolution. And then also just getting confirmation from you all that you're comfortable. So the LLC owns the property for this project. And so confirmation that that land can be used as the construction loan guarantee. And so these are just verbal confirmations and directions that you all need to give. But again, this is not us committing to the loan in any way. This is just to move through the application process.
Thanks, Ann. Any questions from the board or opposition to moving forward with negotiations with the bank and affirming that the land would be the loan guarantee?
No.
Seeing nodding. Okay, the language is on page 12.
And
It's just direct.
We just.
It is
do you need
direction.
more
I didn't
indication than that. Yeah.
No. Well, I should have put it all together. So if you read the paragraph under motion or direction, you can read that, and then also the confirmation that the land can be used as the construction loan guarantee.
Yeah, okay. So on behalf of the Anvil Townhomes LLC and the Silverton Housing Authority Board, direction is hereby given to staff to draft a resolution for the construction loan for the Anvil Townhome development with First Southwest Bank to be presented at a future meeting with the official term sheet and to consider the property and land as a loan guarantee for the construction loan.
Great.
Does that work?
That works. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne.
Moving on, in January, we had a work session to go over organizational values and focus areas and goals to prioritize projects for 2025. And so I've put together a work plan that summarizes that conversation. And we should formally adopt it. But if you have any edits, you can suggest those too. There's not really a time crunch on this, but it could be as easy as just adopting it tonight, or we can dive back into it. So that is up to you all.
Thanks. Thoughts from the board?
I'm okay with adopting it tonight.
I thought, Anne, this was a really great way to consolidate it. I thought it really reflected our discussion. It seems it seems focused enough. So my main question to you is just like, does this feel doable? And or is there anything you need us to like, again, deprioritize or take off your plate? Or this feels like what your priorities would be for yourself?
Yeah, this feels in alignment. I think we'll try our best to reach all these goals. And again, it is really contingent on if the townhome project moves forward. But yes, it does feel doable and in alignment with what we discussed and what I have capacity for.
Great. I think it's a great thing to keep us focused. So
Yes.
well done, board. Well done, Anne. Any edits? Comments on it before we adopt it?
Not for me.
Tyler, Tim?
Now, the biggest one for me is in there, continuing to explore multi-jurisdictional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one is on my to-do list. It's definitely on the back burner, I will say, maybe the second priority after the townhome development. But we can reassess that as we learn more about the future of this project.
Great. Well, and the townhome development is kind of like urgent,
That's
top
huge.
priority right now, build units, and then like it happens pretty quickly. And then.
So to do multi-jurisdictional, we need to have people that are willing to.
Yeah.
Be partners.
Be multi. Okay, does anyone want to make a motion to adopt the 2025 work plan of the Silverton Housing Authority?
Make a motion to adopt the 2025 work plan of the Silverton Housing Authority.
Second. You two are on a roll. Lena, roll call, please.
Trustee Wakefield, trustee Gardner,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Member Tim Harper,
Yes.
Springer.
Yes. Thank you, Anne. That was great. Thanks for doing something with all that.
Yeah, of course. And then one final item. So per state statute, any company that is at least partially owned or managed by a housing authority can apply for sales and use tax exemption for affordable housing projects. So since the Annville Townhomes LLC is again managed entirely by the Silverton Housing Authority and we're 100% member, the LLC would be a qualifying entity to apply for sales and use tax exemption. So this is just taking advantage of the cost savings there, and that would be associated with the townhome development. And so this is just a certification from the housing authority that we are part of this LLC and we grant permission for the LLC to apply for the sales and use tax exemption. It's so complicated because we're the same the same entity, but we're
But you're-
different, obviously. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's a little redundant here, but it's just for the sales and use tax application.
I appreciate that you're going through all the processes.
I'll make a motion to approve the Housing Authority certification regarding sales and use tax exemption for Anvil Townhomes LLC.
Second.
Mark, who you want, Melina? I think it's fine. Go.
Yes.
Yes. Trustee George.
Yes.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes. Neat. Thank you, Anne. That was a
Thank you
lot.
all. Yeah, good job getting through that.
Thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, it's 6:54. That concludes the Housing Authority meeting. We will reconvene the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees at 7 o'clock.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thank you. Are we off mute? Great. The time is 7:01. It is April 14th. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. I'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please, Melina.
Trustee Halverson.
Here.
Trustee Wakefield.
There.
Trustee Gardner.
Here.
Trustee George.
Here.
Harper Tim Harper.
Here.
Franker.
Here. Great, thank you. Do we have any staff or board revisions to the agenda?
Staff does not have any revisions to the agenda.
Okay, I have a agenda on the Natural Resources Damages Fund application. Later, there were some changes to the budget that I hadn't caught on an earlier draft, so the Google Drive is updated. So it's updated in the packet, but I'll walk us through it when we get to that point. Okay, we'll now open it up for public comment. This is the time we'll take public comment on any agenda item. If you have a public comment related to the public hearing about the RV ordinance, it'll be the second reading. It's a public hearing related to workforce housing and the RV ordinance. Please save your public comment if it's related to that item for the public hearing. But if you have another public comment, you can come up to the podium, introduce yourself. You'll have 3 minutes. We'll take in-person public comment and then go to Zoom. Come on up.
Hello again, Paul Zimmerman, 1304 Green Street. One thing I noticed on your minutes, it said no public comment from last meeting, and there was public comment, at least me and Mike. And that should be corrected in the minutes. Sure. Anyways, back again about water bills and all that. I know I talked to you guys, and we're hoping to get info justifying the crazy administrative fees we've been taking the last few years. How we're going to correct that. I mean, businesses can only take so much. We keep getting beat up. Definitely seems to be unequitable. Went recently about a 12 to 13% increase for residents. And mine's 46%. I'm hearing different numbers on all businesses. So I don't know what the standard was. But yeah, I'm here again. Hopefully start getting some information. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Do we have other in-person public comment?
Hello. The other day I heard something which was very disturbing. I heard, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, maybe this is just a rumor, and there's plenty of those going around. Someone told me that you folks, maybe one of you, maybe all of you, decided to not have any fireworks on the 4th of July. I don't hear any pushback, so maybe it may be true. I think having 4th of July fireworks is extremely important to that whole holiday. I'm not going to get into the patriotic point of view. That's one of my favorite things to do, but that doesn't, tonight, that doesn't have anything to do with anything. You can be patriotic or not. I'm talking business. I'm talking money. I'm talking the economy. Never, the patriotism, that's my own little personal thing. Money. Everything that happens on the 4th of July is important. Everything. The parade, the flyover, and the 4th of July fireworks. This is strictly a business proposition. The town is suffering in lots of ways financially, but I would think rather than you tell me we can't afford it, I'd say we can't afford not to do it. People look forward to that fireworks. They look forward to the parade, stay over for the fireworks. It is one of the best things we do, one of the very best things we do all year long. Now, when I used to be in the restaurant business, I knew it was kicking my behind to make it through that day. But believe me, we made money. And for this town, at this juncture, it is important that the town makes the money. They make the money, obviously, no surprise, sales tax. Sales tax, which pays for a lot of things, pays for all of you folks probably, and everything that we do infrastructure-wise. So this is really, to my mind, not just a patriotic thing, which I love, but is strictly a business proposition. Do everything we can to bring all the tourists we can in, have them enjoy themselves at the parade, flyover, whatever else is going on, any smaller things, and to have that wonderful fireworks. Now, again, you may say, Mike, we can't afford it. I am kicking back at you and saying, we cannot afford not to do it. We must do it. People expect us to do it. They know we do the best fireworks in the entire Four Corners area. It really attracts a lot of people. If at anything, it brings that, I call it notoriety to the Silverton community. Us locals love it, and the business people really love it. I would hate to think that the business people, because they're starting to already pump up things, it is only about a month away from the train, and they're starting to pump up things. I think they would be vastly disappointed to find out that maybe there's a possibility that the fireworks will not go on, because it means direct money for them and direct money for the town of Silverton. I can't see why that's a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. It's a good idea to have the fireworks. The fireworks are part and parcel of everything that goes on that day.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Do you have any other in-person comment? And Sarah, we're gonna talk about your proposal later. So that, yeah. That's great. I just want to check. Perfect. No worries. You're on the agenda. Thank you. Do we have any Zoom public comment? It looks like we do. Again, if you'd like to make a comment on Zoom, click the raise hand button and we'll promote you to panelist. We will give you 3 minutes and you can make your comment. Please introduce yourself.
Melody Skinner, can you hear me?
We can, go ahead.
I feel like I need to take the opportunity to remind the elected officials on the board that you are elected to represent the citizens, the people of town. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other in-person public comment on Zoom? Any other raised hands? Great, I don't see any other raised hands, so we'll close public comment and we'll move on to the agenda. We'll move on to presentations and proclamations. Sarah, we'll invite you up. We're going to be hearing from Sarah Mordecai with the Silverton Family Learning Center.
Well, I know that my proposal kind of comes on the heels or in the midst of a lot of controversy around your recent rate increases. I also didn't share in this, but I mean, this has been on my radar as I've been planning some kind of creative solutions to our budget shortfalls. It just happens to align with these increases. I was going to ask anyways, but yeah, I think I laid it out. I mean, we're just asking that you would be willing to offer our water, sewer, trash, sewer services as an in-kind contribution. That could be for a period of time would be helpful to us, or in perpetuity, you know, however you guys want to look at it. Do you have any questions for me about what I sent in?
Thanks, Sarah. A question I had for staff or for you if you want to is how much are we talking about?
It ends up being, well, you could, Gloria, were you going to say something?
Oh, yeah, just looking at your rates, we're about $297 a month.
And our current bill did
Billing period or month?
Bi-monthly, sorry.
Bi-monthly.
Our recent one was increased with this increase, so it's right under 600, about 575.
That's an outstanding balance.
Oh, it is? So we did not get the increase. Okay.
Yeah, so actually your new EQR is 297.
Okay, well, we're on auto pay, so I'm sorry. I'll look at that. We shouldn't have an outstanding balance. I'll double check, but so yeah, it's under $3,000 a year when you do that, man.
Question, was the 279 your current bill or is it the previous before the rate increase?
297, sorry.
290.
Was that before the rate increase?
That's the current bill.
And what was it before?
It was the same as everyone else, so it was the flat rate before the increases. 275.
250, then 275. Yeah.
250?
275.
So it went from 275 to 297?
Yes.
And yeah, as I mentioned, the increase really isn't my issue. I mean, for us right now, we're taking some pretty dramatic steps to save money in every way that we can. That's including me cutting my own salary in half.
All right, that's not for you. Don't worry.
Going to the county too and working with them on some other ways to bring in, so it's, not just targeting you guys here, but it would be helpful.
I mean, I don't think that's a huge yearly fee, especially with all the funding that you guys have lost and how important the Learning Center is for our community and also how expensive it is too. And I'd be for it.
I think, Sarah, I really liked all of your stuff in there. I mean, I think funding early childhood education and really childcare in general is sort of essential for our community. When I think of our community as mayor, I think very much in the realm of like the success and vibrancy of this community is directly tied to the success and vibrancy of our schools, right? If our schools are not successful, if our preschool and daycare is not successful, if our K-12 school is not successful, retaining families, having families live here, like the culture of our community really changes. I think the thing for me, so what I hear you saying is just we're having a funding shortfall and we need whatever support you could provide. And we all know that we didn't have our nonprofit request this year. I think for me, it's an accounting issue, but I feel a little hesitant to waive utility fees, but I would be very open to contributing some sort of contribution, if that makes any sense. Because I think the thing we can get into is if we have organizations, institutions, businesses coming to us and saying, well, can we have this exception? Can we have this exception? Can we have this exception for our rates? It kind of is a slippery slope of exceptions. Whereas if you're coming and saying, hey, like our early childhood learning center is really at risk because of these new state funding structures. Are there options where the town has any sort of funding? Again, it's sort of accounting differences, but it kind of sets different precedents to an extent. But I don't know, I'd be open to what my other colleagues think, but I do think housing and education is super important. Housing, education, and jobs to me are kind of the cornerstone of a community like ours and any community. And so when we have our, preschool director coming to us and saying like, we're having a really hard time. And we know that half of the kids at that school are kids of teachers at the other school, right? If the preschool's not there, then all of a sudden the teachers can't teach, and it's kind of this cascading effect.
And I mean, funding enrollment in the preschool is way different than the public school too. It's
right.
Expensive, it's costly.
Right.
And as I stated in here, we're just in a really unique situation where we have to meet state standards regardless of our enrollment. And so that cost doesn't really diminish based on what the enrollment is. And I can respect what you're saying, that accounting process, it to me just seemed like an easy way to, sort of take a load off of our ongoing expenses. But, I'm open to what your thoughts are too, so.
Ron, Jim, Tyler, Lindsay?
What is the annual dollar amount?
That's $1,785.
For all three, water, sewer, trash?
I had thought, like I said, that increase, so it bumped it up a little bit more, but yeah, not a huge ask.
Thank you, Clary.
Lindsay, I want to make sure you have an opportunity. It's hard online sometime.
Oh, if I have something to say, I'll get in there. I guess my question is like the timeline in which we're trying to make this decision, because we're doing a presentation today and then we would have to figure out if we want to support, how we want to support. And I know I saw in the presentation, Sarah, was great, or the packet you put together, that like Estes and other communities have some of their lodging fee go to like early childhood development or the like learning centers. And so I'm kind of in like I'm tracking what Dana's saying, and that maybe an exception might not be it, but I wonder if there's another way to be able to make up that budget, or just like up to $1,000, a little over 1,000. Yeah, those were my thoughts. And maybe the quick question is process, and like how would we make a decision like this? And what would that look like?
Depending on where you all are headed with the decision, it would come in the form of a resolution so that it's documented. So you would give me a direction to draft a resolution for you all to adopt.
And I mean, maybe we're making this too complicated. We're talking about like $1,800, like.
Yeah,
Like-
and then to speak to what she mentioned about the lodging tax, I mean, there's some really, really creative uses of those lodging tax. That was passed in 2023 and specific to childcare and housing. And I have not actually requested any of those funds to date, but I'm in talks, putting a proposal together with Willie. And so again, we're kind of looking at different avenues. That's obviously a more substantial contribution than, $1,800 potentially, depending on what the Board of County Commissioners decides. But yeah.
Yeah, and just so you know, Lindsay, when we're talking about that lodging fee or the tourism fund, that is managed at the county. There's a tourism board. And so the voter approval for being able to use some of that money for not just marketing related expenses in a county, but also for childcare, housing, that is managed at the county level.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I want more just like there's been interesting other solutions out there to help like the early childhood education in different places, even if it's not managed at our level.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe it was 60% that was rerouted.
40%.
Is it 40?
Was rerouted. And you're right. And I was just I went up to Denver
I was on the board.
a couple of weeks ago and met the Buell Foundation just held a big conference specific to those lodging taxes and how they're being used. And, Eagle County, for instance, they're like, $1 million a year will get us no housing. You can have all of it, right? Like they just gave all of their funding to childcare. La Plata County just passed 2%. I mean, I know that's not your issue here, but you're right, Lindsay, there's a lot of creative solutions out there and I'm trying to kind of explore. None of them are really quick fixes. And in this case, again, I thought this could be a pretty kind of quick fix and it's not a ton of money. I mean, I know it might seem silly to be honest with you, but I'm just trying to every penny I can right now.
Thanks.
And I get what you're saying, Dana, about the exceptions thing, but I truly don't think that the Learning Center is like another business in town when we're talking about our children being able to operate, So I'm okay with.
And I don't want to gum this up in administrative process.
Yeah.
Well, and if we move forward, what's the soonest we could get out? Was it a 4-week period? Get resolution and then get the information up?
Oh, the resolution could be at the next meeting and it would be immediately adopted.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
I appreciate your consideration too and hearing me out on it.
Well, I think, again, continue to come to us because we need the alarm bells raised if there's real vulnerabilities with that service in the community.
Right.
Ron, Tyler, thoughts? How we want to move forward?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's like any other business. I think it's easy just to. It's definitely in its own category. So if that makes a difference, and that's something we can do, then I'm
Yeah, thank you.
to keep that service going.
Hey.
Disagreement here.
Okay, so it sounds like there's general consensus to go forward with the resolution. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay. Lori, does that feel clear?
Yes.
Great. Sarah, thanks for all that work.
Thank you.
Big
I
packet.
appreciate you guys.
And again, come back.
I really like the supplemental information, yeah.
Bit right now.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to agenda item 3B, EV charging stations with Helios. And I think we have Helios with us to give us a presentation.
Good evening. I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Great.
Right. And I apologize. I couldn't be there in person this evening. I was planning to come down, but got held up. And so I really appreciate everyone's time this evening. I'm really excited to give everybody an update first came to Silverton with the idea of installing some EV chargers about a year and a half ago. It's in the fall of 2023. And since then, we've made some great progress. So we just some quick background. The federal government set up initiatives to help promote EV charging, fast EV chargers. And in 2022, Colorado put together their program. In December of 2023, we submitted a proposal with the support of the town of Silverton to install 4 fast chargers. And then we found out we were awarded that about a year ago. And so we've been working really closely with Lucy and Steve have been absolutely amazing. And then also with San Miguel Power. And so this is to install, again, 4 fast chargers in town. So basically we were faced with the task of figuring out where to install those. So as far as the Colorado Energy Office and the state goals, really the goal is to support the adoption of EV vehicles and really make it so that they can travel statewide without having to worry about range anxiety or running out of energy. And what we really realize is that there is really a pretty big gap on 550, which is identified as a key priority corridor. And so Silverton seemed like a great place. Silverton, I don't have to tell you, is amazing. I've been coming there ever since I was a kid. I've finished Hard Rock a dozen times and been there to aid and crew lots of times. I just love being able to make that part of my my tradition at least once a year. And so when it comes to the site requirements, the idea is it has to be at least 4 high-speed charging ports. There needs to be at least 1 parking space, which is ADA compliant. Doesn't have to be full handicap, but at least having enough extra room for people to park and get out that may be accessibility impaired. It needs to be well lit. Although we're working on a dark skies compliant lighting that has been approved, knowing that that's a key priority for the community in close proximity to restrooms, restaurants, and other amenities. Now, one of our goals was really to try to make sure that this could be really a way of driving some more economic growth in the community. And this kind of gets into where the site locations that we looked at. But just the reason why we really think that Silverton could be a great place. This is kind of the charging gap that I had mentioned. So we have Silverton down here, and there's really nothing between Montrose and Durango. There's one medium charging port in Purgatory, and there's a few that they're putting in Ouray, but still, if you're coming from Durango and you're trying to get over Red Mountain Pass, it really would be helpful to have a place to park or a place to charge. So the places we looked at, the first most preferable option was Anisi Park, and again, Steve and Lucy and SMPA have been amazing in helping to try to figure out if this was in fact viable. Backups were visitor center and the library. Anisi Park is just so strategically located where people can park and then they can go to Black Bear, get a bite to eat, a coffee, or they can go other places in town really, really easily. One thing to consider is that when you're charging an electric vehicle as opposed to filling up your tank of gas, you're going to stay parked for 30, 45 minutes, maybe even more. And you're going to be able to walk around, get something, and again, really stimulate the local economy. Whereas when you're just filling up a tank of gas, you're just there at the pump, filling up your vehicle. So we really did want to try to drive people into the heart of town. And that's why this was our primary the primary location that we were really going for. So we were really excited after a lot of work with Steve and Lucy and SMPA, figuring out that this should be viable. That there's a pole just on the just on kind of like the north end of the alley, a power pole that we can use, and then we would put a transformer kind of in the alley near the stage, and then be able to do horizontal boring underneath the park, and then we would put the chargers out front. And I've got a couple of renderings I can show you as well. The second side option was visitor center. This is a great spot for traffic. It's right off of 550, obviously, but it doesn't draw people into town as much as we would like. The grocery is really close, and that's fantastic. And it's still only a few blocks, but we really wanted to make it so that town was right there where they could really stimulate the economy. Silverton Library was our kind of third choice, and really because it's the proximity with the school and the electric infrastructure, we thought that really wasn't ideal as far as putting some high power equipment right there. So this is what the chargers look like. And the screen is actually optional. So some people prefer not to have the screen, and that's something that the purpose we saw was being able to help promote local businesses. So we could put on like specials, come see us, and maybe put a map of town so people could really see where to go while they were charging, and help direct them. We can dim this significantly during night, again, so it is dark skies compliant. We can even put a cover on just to absolutely minimize any ambient light to maintain that status. So the equipment, there's two dispensers, and that's this guy in the middle, the one with the screen. Each dispenser has 2 ports. So we would install 2 of these dispensers, and they would be able to charge vehicles very, very quickly. So 300 kilowatts would be able to charge a vehicle fully in about 20 minutes. Most vehicles typically don't charge quite that fast, so it's really probably more likely 45 minutes for a charge. I'm sure you've all seen these green utility boxes. These green utility boxes that would sit in the alley, and then there'd be a power cabinet as well, paired with the dispenser that would also most likely be in the alley. So these are some renderings of what they would look like. So we would have one that would share the existing handicap spot, so it'd be ADA compliant, and one that would be off to the side, and so that people could pull up and park. And here's just kind of a different view of what that might look like. So project budget, obviously this is a really important component. So the estimated project cost, complete with contingency, we estimate to be just a little under $800,000. A little over $400,000 is the equipment. The installation is the next biggest piece. This is because we have to basically trench down the alley. We have to use hydraulic trenching just to make sure we don't interrupt any existing utilities. And then that gets the material gets hand removed. So again, we don't break any existing fiber or any plumbing. And just in case anything's not completely well documented. There's utility upgrades that are going to be required, dropping a new transformer, and then engineering, permitting, and all of that other good stuff. So this is like a really important part. You'll notice here that the Silverton component of the budget is 0, right? We, again, with the support of the town, submitted and were awarded a grant. The grant covers up to 80% of the project, and Helios, our company, covers the balance. And so there's no out-of-pocket costs, no installation, no equipment, no maintenance, no power. This would have a dedicated meter that would be paid out of the proceeds of charging. And any other balance to do is paid directly by Helios. So none of this is paid by the town of Silverton. And so this right here, the lower right, is just a projection of revenue, of the revenue share to the town. So our goal is to really create a charging infrastructure and really make this a win-win for the communities that that host the chargers. And so what we have is kind of a two-tiered revenue share system. So a 10% revenue share until the cost of the equipment is recovered. And in this case, that happens about year 4. And then that doubles to a 20% revenue share estimated in about year 5. And so, we project that, by year 7, this could be $20,000 per year coming into the town as revenue. And in year 1, it would be about $5,000. This is based on about 2 charges per port per day. So in the summer, it could easily exceed that. In the winter, it might be a little bit below that. And these, again, are just projections. So as far as the charging rates, there are some high rates in the area. We look at Ouray at 58 cents a kilowatt hour, Wolf Creek at 60 cents. And then they vary. The target rate is 45 cents a kilowatt hour, which is the median rate. And our goal is that this could be a great resource for people in Silverton who want to adopt EVs, and we could even do subsidized rates for town residents if that's something that there's interest in. And so kind of just to bring everybody where we are. So we applied, we were awarded the grant, and now we've been working with SMPA to really figure out where are viable locations. Together with again Steve and Lucy, which just immensely grateful for all their assistance. We believe that Anisi Park is the best location. And then once we have kind of a final approval, then we work on getting environmental clearance. There's still some red tape that we need to go through with CDOT, and then build out and commissioning. So anyway, this is really, really exciting. I want to give everybody an update and then make sure I could open up the floor for any questions as well.
Thanks, Daniel. That's great. That's really helpful. I know we saw some of this a while ago. We've also, had some discussions about this. So opening up for questions. I had a quick question for you. So the total estimated cost of the project is $783. 20% of that is coming from Helios, the 157, and then 626,000 is the grant, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
I mean, for something that'd be zero cost to us and to get a revenue of up to possibly $30,000 annually, no brainer. I like the stations. I like the idea to have them at Anisi Park as well. I think that makes sense, especially to get people out and shopping and eating in town.
And one other thing which is really great is that we work really hard to make sure that this shows up on all the maps of EV chargers, right? So people are in Durango and they're looking at they're plotting their course about where are they gonna stop and where they're gonna charge. They see this as a map and they can put this as a destination to make sure that they can charge on their way north. So even if Silverton isn't their destination, it can be a meaningful stop on their journey. And that's really great.
And
Where do you
correct me if I'm
from?
wrong, Daniel. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ron.
Where do you come from if repairs are needed?
Oh, sure. So we're based in Denver, but we also have partners in Durango that we could dispatch, especially if there is something emergent. You ask a really good question, which is under the terms of the program from the Colorado Energy Office, we have to be able to provide at least 97% uptime. So part of the grant is essentially retained for performance to those metrics. So there's also the financial incentive to make sure that these things are up all the time. Great question. For anything minor, we'll be able to be dispatched probably from Durango, but anything major would only come from Denver, so it wouldn't be dispatched across the country.
So for example, if somebody was charging and drove off with the charger in their car, electrical wires are hanging out. Where does that repair come from? Is that Durango or Denver?
So, fortunately, EVs, you can't drive away. It like will not let you drive away if you're plugged in. However, if someone, if there's vandalism, and again, these things do happen. I'm sure you've heard about these. If it's something that was just a charger cable that was destroyed, we could probably have that done in out of Durango. If it was something more substantial, it would need to come from Denver.
Do you put up a bond in case you guys happen to go out of business and we need to remove these units from our town? We'll have the cost covered.
That's a great question. So the Colorado Energy Office requires that we basically pay all warranty and those service type items up front for the first 5 years, so that it really does protect against companies. Should we go out of business, all of those funds would be paid up front.
Thank you.
There's actually a similar question around what about decommissioning and or like long-term maintenance of the chargers?
Yeah, great question. So our goal is to be around longer than just kind of like the initial 5 years. In fact, like our typical agreements are 10 years in length, with the idea that probably around year 7 or so, it's going to be time to upgrade the hardware to the latest and greatest. And that only works if it's a real win-win for the entire community. If it's it's financially viable as well. So so hopefully this is fantastic. And after after the term of our initial agreement, and whether that's 5 years or 10 years, Colorado Energy Office requires that a minimum 5 years, just because of the the terms of the grant. Then this is a great partnership. If we typically do put into our agreement that it is our responsibility at the end of the term, if the agreement is not renewed, that it is our cost to basically return everything to the way it was before. So remove the chargers, remove the power cabinets, do whatever landscaping is required to make sure, it's not just just a hole in the ground, and just to make sure that is recovered.
So Daniel, my question is kind of like, I'm sort of philosophically stuck on this idea of, well, first off, let me say, I think this is a great asset to add to town. I think it's helpful to have a few more EV charges in strategic places. I think the part where I'm getting a little bit hung up is it's kind of like allowing a private company to operate parking meters on our public right of way and collect all the revenue from it. And so there's part of me that just thinks, well, doesn't this potentially make more sense for the town to invest in the infrastructure and pursue the grant funding and then collect all of the revenue? I mean, clearly this is a benefit for you as a company, which is fine. I'm pro-business, I'm pro-private enterprise, all that's great. But I also just wonder from a town perspective, I realize the value you're bringing in the sense that like there's not a lot of capacity or infrastructure demand from the town or town staff. But then at the same time, we're really like leasing out private or public right of way while getting a small share of the revenue.
I think that is a completely fair way to look at this, right? Is that we're putting out the capital, right? And committing to all the any repairs and maintenance and monitoring monitoring the chargers, and also we're putting ahead capital. We're hoping to be able to break even in year 5, and again the risk is also on our side, and so that if it does not if there's not as much revenue as we have, anticipated, then, it's possible that this could also lose money in the end. I know that we, we're working with Leadville. Leadville had a fast charger and it was costing them $10,000 a year, just in excess energy costs and fees and everything else. And it was partially grant funded, right? So I think that you raise a completely valid point of if the town wants to invest the capital and do this, then we could even look at assigning this grant to the town. And I think that's a worthwhile discussion that you should have. As a company, our goal, I should say more personally, my goal is to make sure that, there's EV chargers all over because I drive an EV and, I love driving all over. I love Colorado. And so I think that is something that's worth exploring. And we could also even look at having a maybe even an assumption provision in the agreement so that if the town decides it really is beneficial, once it's been a little bit de-risked, then we could look at that as well. So we would like to be your partner in this and completely understand that the typical agreement really is more like a lease. Like we're going to lease the space, we're going to install the chargers, and we're going to share the revenue in compensation for that lease. And this helps to drive people into Silverton, and hopefully there's revenue made there's a profit made on the chargers as well.
Right. And that's kind of why you have the revenue sharing change after 5 years, because once the upfront cost is paid for, then the revenue sharing increases. Yeah, I mean, from a town again, I appreciate the work that you've done with staff and the work that you've done bringing this to our attention for sure. But from a town perspective, I just sort of ask, well, there's a lot of this that's being covered capital-wise from a federal grant that the town could also be eligible for, and then our revenue sharing could be greater over time for land that we own.
Absolutely. And again, that's something that we're absolutely happy to engage with as well, right? I think the first thing to look at is like once the initial investment's recovered, like that return is still zero, but and then we go from there. But I do think that we're doing this because we think it's a good business in addition to helping to bring EV chargers to places across the state. And like I said, we've already won the grant, but that grant could be assumed. So if this is something that you as a town of Silverton really wants to take on, let's work together and rather than resubmitting, partially because federal funding for these has been currently it's been withdrawn from the federal government. And so new grant proposals are not being considered. So anyway, what I would say is let's engage in a discussion. And if this is something you want to take on by yourself, happy to kind of go through and really walk you through all of the ins and outs of the things, just so you can be really well educated and make that decision. And if so, again, you can assume the grant, and that is absolutely an option.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. A couple of more administrative questions. What's the time period for the grant?
So the time period for the grant is it needs to be installed ideally by summer of 2026. We can probably get an extension if things do drag on that long, but the initial term is essentially 2 years from the date of award, which was last spring.
Yeah, and you are like very confident that this grant award would not be revoked?
That is a great question. So we received a notice from the state controller that these projects, Colorado is suing the current administration to ensure that these contracts can be honored. This this has already been contracted, so it shouldn't be in dispute. However,
So have many contracted projects also said, yes.
Right. So I cannot tell you today with 100% certainty that this project's funding will not be revoked. What I can tell you is that it is passed into contracting. And so it's not just submitted. We have a contract with CDOT and the Colorado Energy Office on funds that were awarded from the federal government previously. So, and it's not, we're not waiting to hear. This has been awarded. We are just waiting to hear back, which we expect. They told us April or May that they're hoping for, conclusive decision from their litigation.
Yeah, thank you. And then finally with that, I think Ron kind of touched on this as far as like bond or insurance or something, because like, what if, does this grant all get awarded at once and then it's built and then it's done? And then you're assuming from a business perspective, the ongoing maintenance and risk of these chargers, or what's the liability to the town if we do partner and then this funding structure changes?
So all of the prepaids include extended warranties for 5 years, things like data connection and all the licenses, all of those fees. Repairs and maintenance are really hard to capture upfront because if everything goes well, they're very, very, very low. And if there's tons of vandalism, then they can be really high. So insurance is not a prepaid, but it does cover things like, they have those bollards in front of them, but if somebody like is really determined and goes really fast and runs into them, they can be damaged. That is covered by insurance.
Oh, did we lose you, Daniel?
Oh, can you hear me? Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Cannot hear you.
Wait,
Lindsay, can you hear me?
you can hear?
Lindsay, you can hear
I
us?
can
We
you guys
can't
hear
hear
me?
Lindsay. So Lindsay can hear Dan,
Yeah.
but we all cannot hear or Dan.
Okay.
All right, just hold for a second. That's great. I talked a lot and asked a lot of questions. I'd be happy to hear from the town board because they can hear us. So while we can't hear Dan, we can hear comments from the board. Thoughts?
Yeah, and I can hear.
So I mean, if we took this grant ourselves, would we have to provide that 20% match then of 100%?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's all kinds of options where you could look at different cost sharing.
Yeah. It's expensive.
If we switch off.
Just looking, who's the other electric vehicle charging company that presented to us?
Which is.
He was the startup, but then he was partnering with another entity.
Yeah, just looking through the notes to see what the cost was.
Yeah, I don't think we have that clearly.
I mean, if ideally they want it by 2026, can we even afford to provide that 20% match?
Well, I don't know. I'm just thinking like we have them installed at the Wyman that think might be profitable. Like why can't, that was done by a private entity, one business. Why can't the town do something like that?
Can you guys still not hear me?
Oh, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, so those were Tesla chargers, which is different than these ones. Of just like compatibility. And I mean, we would probably need a check-in machine, but there were typically programs for those installations that made it a little bit easier than other chargers. And actually, Daniel, I have a question for you now that we're back. Sorry if you can hear me.
Yeah.
I can hear
Where
you.
are there other fast chargers in our region? Or would this be one of the, from what I'm remembering, it's like this is would be one of the only fast chargers in our area.
Yeah, there are a few in Durango. There's some that are being built in Ouray, and the next big charging station is in Montrose. And you also raised a really good question about connectors. So these are universal connectors, and there's basically two standards, and everybody has adapters for the other one. So these do work with Teslas or non-Teslas.
Whereas Tesla likes to be the iPhone, where you like to have their only special charger and you have to have the adapter. So.
It's why we're Android users at our house.
Me too.
So you all have heard from several different companies. This one obviously comes with a grant and award. So not really making a decision tonight, but maybe a work session in the future or an agenda item in the future where you all can make that decision would be my suggestion. We also do have Sarah here and Steve's online if you had any questions specifically for staff. Or if Sarah, you wanted to.
I have information.
Sure.
Yeah, that I think needs to be considered. And Daniel, this is Sarah. I'm the Director of Facilities, Parks and Recreation. I think we had a second to talk about this. Your renderings respectfully did not include the huge transformer box in the back alley, which of course creates a whole complicated mess back there. We have no mapping of our sprinkler system. We have a complicated tree root system under there with aspen trees. And then we have a very complex utility exchange back there. So I guess my question to you is, how deep are we going back there if we install this? And two, I mean, is there some guarantee that we're not going to cause complete havoc back there?
I wish I could provide 100% guarantee. What I can tell you is that the purpose we looked at hydraulic excavating is that basically it uses water to be able to identify all the conduit and any lines that whether it's cables, whether it's fiber conduit, whether it's plumbing lines, be able to identify where those are and then hand excavate around those to really minimize the impact. The company is out of Durango, so they're really familiar with working in this area as far as doing the hydraulic excavation. And I can commit that if there's damage, that part of the excavation will be repairing any of that damage, and as soon as possible. And I wish I could tell you, like I said, 100% that we're not going to sever a sprinkler line, but I can commit that we will repair them and fix it if we do. And at the end, we should be able to hopefully have at least some better information down the alley in where the transformer lands about where everything is.
I love this idea. Don't get me wrong. I love driving business over to Legacy Park. However, the risk in putting a big hole in the back of a brand new park that the public has spent a lot of money on is just scary to me personally without 100% guarantee. But I mean, he has an answer to that. And so, I mean, my thoughts are no Anisi Park, maybe town hall, somewhere where we need to do cement work already. Something a little bit more visible and more central to the Tesla stations that we already have. But that's just my opinion. Just want you to consider the park.
Thank you.
Spend a lot of money on it.
I really appreciate that.
We didn't hear from Ron or Tyler. Thoughts, concerns? This is the second presentation we've heard about EV chargers.
Something to think about. We do have two stations here in town that don't seem to be all that busy. I think maybe in the future there may be a use for it, but currently I don't see a great advantage for us having those.
I think one point to that is that there's no fast chargers in town, and fast chargers and slow chargers make a complete difference, right? So a slow charger is great overnight. You're going to stay at the Wyman, and you're going to charge out in front. That's fantastic. But you're only getting a few miles of range for every hour that you charge. However, with these, you're getting, 300 miles in, 45 minutes. And so it really does make it much more like reliable as a place to charge, to make it as part of your journey. Because otherwise you're basically dedicating an entire day in Silverton just to try to get enough range to get over Red Mountain Pass, as opposed to be able to plug in, go grab a bite to eat, and then continue on your way.
All right. Well, I think we have a couple of things. I think we've all been intrigued. Well, go ahead, Jim. Yeah.
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 Doing some research and looking up, where are your charging stations in Monte Vista?
It is going to be in there's a new hotel which is being developed on land which was formerly owned by the town of Monte Vista. And so it's going to be in the parking lot of that hotel.
That explains why I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's these projects were actually we applied for these two projects at the same time, and they were both awarded, which is really exciting. It does take a long time to get these projects rolling, so all the permitting and everything else, and so we are excited about the project in Monte Vista, and we recently won one in Leadville as well, where it's going to be deployed behind the Tabor Opera House in a city-owned lot, and yeah, that's really exciting. But they just take a long time. Again, part of it's utility upgrades, finding the transformers, getting those installed. It's not a short process.
So those aren't installed either.
Leadville is not installed yet either.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, it seems like the board, I mean, all of these ideas sound interesting, and I can get the appeal of the fast charger, and we're on this corridor, and I think it is good for the town to continually think of new ways to, one, generate revenue, and two, bring people off the highway into our community to walk and shop and buy and spend their dollars. And so I see a lot of appeal on this. I think for me, I'm also just very sensitive to the most strategic ways to use town assets and resources and staff capacity. So I would be keen to kind of center this conversation when we have our trustee retreat and we're talking about priorities, and that's really kind of making determinations on like, where are we spending staff time? Where are we spending future budget dollars? What's really priorities? And maybe we could keep that going. But Daniel, I think I can understand from a business perspective, you're looking for some sort of agreement or commitment with the town. I mean, that's kind of a next step to move forward. And I think from the seats that we're sitting in here, we're not quite ready to make that distinct commitment yet. So what's sort of the timing here in terms of potential partnerships, doors opening, doors closing, that kind of thing?
Yeah, great question, and I appreciate it very much. So I understand we work with a lot of municipalities, which is fantastic. We really are community oriented, but also understand that it does take time to really do your own due diligence to see if this is the right solution. So really what we need kind of most immediately is identifying, if we were to move forward, is Anisi Park a good location? We originally had looked at City Hall, but then that I guess wasn't a good because of the Historical Society, so that's why we started looking at these other locations. What we need to do, kind of the next steps, is really start doing a site plan, which still doesn't obligate you to move forward, but it's 2-3 months. And we work with CDOT on getting the environmental clearances. And so what I would ask is that if this is something that the town thinks would be interesting, is really trying to lock down what location that lets us move forward, even while you're considering whether you definitely want to do this and move forward with an agreement or not. We can still move forward with the environmental clearances, which again can take quite a bit of time. And that way, as we move through that, we could stay engaged, and hopefully the decision is yes. There's a way we can move forward as a partnership. But if not, we're spending some time, but that's all that's lost.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Any other thoughts from staff or the board? Maybe kind of chat about this with our priority setting at.
Yeah, I like that idea. I would like that a lot. We have a few proposals too that we can look at, and we want to go with a partner, great. And we decide that we want to do it by ourselves, but that I think we need to give it plenty of time and make sure that we approach it, like we would anything else.
Great. Okay.
And just for consideration, just from a balance sheet perspective, the grant funds are REEF essentially they're refunded back. So you do have to have the capital for the project to complete it. And once it's completed, then the funds are paid back. So I just want to make sure that's transparent with all of that.
Yep, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
It's a reimbursement based. It's reimbursement based.
It's reimbursement based, yes.
Okay, that's also helpful. Okay, great. Well, thanks, Daniel, for the presentation. We really appreciate it. Thanks, staff, for working on this. Does staff have any other questions for the board on this?
Nope.
Okay, great. And we will kind of situate this within our larger priority discussion.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really, really do appreciate it.
Thanks for your evening time too, Daniel. Take care.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, moving on to agenda item 4A, natural resources damages funding, also called NERDS.
And I might have you take the lead since you've been helping me out with this one.
Okay, great. All right, so subsequent to the Gold King mine spill, there was a settlement with the state of Colorado and the EPA and Sunnyside Gold that set aside some funds that are called natural resources damages funds. And so these are funds that won't be clawed back by the federal government. These are funds that are set aside for areas that were impacted by the Gold King mine spill, and the intention is to kind of restore the damaged resources. They often can be used to kind of both restore, rehabilitate, and then also sometimes provide improved recreational community benefit. So I've been supporting Gloria a little bit in this because of limited capacity and working a bit with some regional groups. So basically, the Attorney General was here this summer and he was here with several of the other trustees. So when we talk about trustees, we're talking about the trustees of this fund that are going to disperse the fund. There is $7 million total in this fund. The first bit of funding is going to be $3.5 million that's going to be released in this first round. Proposals from organizations, communities, et cetera, are due May 31st. And there are really pretty strict criteria on what can be funded. And so there's a regional group set up that involves all of our La Plata friends and neighbors, all of the kind of conservation groups. You can see in the memo, Southwest Water Conservation District, Landowners Alliance, Trout Unlimited, MSI, et cetera. So I've been working with Jake Kurzweil with MSI, Anthony Edwards with the Bonita Peak District, and Gloria and town staff on kind of like, well, what would a request from the town of Silverton look like? Because as we know, much of the EPA funding for Gold King is being spent in the county. This is a pretty unique opportunity for the town to take advantage of funding that has direct effect on our community. So you can see in the memo the criteria for the projects, and basically brainstorming with staff and with this regional group, it was pretty clear that the Animas River Corridor project, which has been in place for years and been planned out for years, was a really great application of this funding. And when Phil Weiser, the Attorney General, was here last summer, he basically held up the Animas River Corridor plan and said, yeah, just do this. We'll fund this if you give us a proposal for this. So that's basically what we've been working on. And if we don't submit anything, we don't get access to any of the funds. So we've kind of been negotiating with our La Plata neighbors to kind of make sure that San Juan County and Silverton gets a good share of this. Just so you guys know, our local group has really been advocating, saying that, look, like Silverton has had the majority of the impact from legacy mining. Like, yes, the Gold King mine spill impacted farther down the valley, but we've had so much impact from legacy mining in our community. We're a much smaller community than La Plata. We have access to much fewer resources than La Plata. So we should get more money. So you can kind of see the first page I kind of want to point you guys to is on page 130. It shows kind of the overall project proposal. So this is what this whole Southwest Colorado regional group is going to propose. And so again, we're trying to get to a $3.5 million request. So San Juan County, which would include the town of Silverton's request, is around 2.2 million, and the La Plata County request is 1.2. So the San Juan County projects would include some wetland restoration in the county, the Upper Animas project, and then some potential easements and property acquisition in the county. And then the project that's really pertinent for us as trustees and the board is the Silverton Animas River Corridor project. And so we're requesting the bulk of the funding. We're the largest project at 1.72. But again, I think there was pretty general agreement from all those that have been involved in the Animas River corridor conversations, that have been involved in NRD discussions, that like, this is the project the trustees want to fund. So we're super hopeful. So you can dive as deep as you want into this. From the town, we're requesting 1.72. Gloria and I have been working with Ramble, the engineering firm that's been doing the brownfield stuff, and getting a cost estimate. We think this project is going to cost closer to 4 million. So obviously the NRD funds only get us so far, but it's back to playing the funding game. So what we're hoping is that we get the NRD funding in this range, and then we could potentially go to GoCo, go to other entities and fund more of the trails, more of the perimeter trail. Let's do a bridge. We really want to put a train car over the bridge. It's a flatbed train car. That'd be super cool. Talking with the train. So just all these different ways to get creative where we can take $1.7 million and turn it into a $4 million completed project.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. The other really exciting thing about this is that so the NERDS funding does require a grant match, which is always really challenging for small communities like ours. But we are pretty confident that we can use the value of the RMPP as the grant match. So it's all super exciting. So we could potentially take the Kendall RMPP, turn that into NERDS funding, and then turn it potentially into land and cash to fund the whole project. So that's fingers crossed. That's the game that we hope to play. But that's kind of the idea. You can see what's being proposed. Again, it's the riparian corridor. It's wetland restoration along the riparian corridor. It proposes what was in the Animas River Corridor project to bifurcate the river. So, you know, right now it's not so great to let your dogs play in the river right there. It's a little pretty heavy metal loading, but if we were able to bifurcate it, we could provide some better access that would be cleaner to recreate in, whether that's wading or kayaking or just a little beach area. So we have some exciting ideas and we'll see how far we can get with it. So I'll stop talking and up to questions.
Great.
When will we know if we can use the RMPP as leverage?
I mean, we've been pretty told.
Oh,
so-
okay, that's.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, we think you could do that. So that's what we're doing with it. Gloria was able to get like an evaluation letter from a realtor to basically say, this is what we think it's valued at. So at least have something formal.
Yeah. That's exciting if that's the case.
Yeah, and again, this is
That
very long.
Animas River corridor plan has been kicking around for
Yeah.
20 years.
We're trying. This is the best shot at getting it funded. So we figured we should go for this. And the main summary for the town is we're not looking for cash match, right? We're not coming saying, oh, we need cash match, we need grant match in the general fund. So if we were able to use the land value, it's really.
That'd be great. Yeah.
I think it sounds like.
And
a great
Dana,
Hey, yeah, Lindsay.
you're saying that like you're ready to submit by this May 31st deadline? Cool.
Yeah, we're very close. So we've been really grateful to Jake with MSI. He's provided a lot of the background technical details. I've been the regional representative to make sure we're at the table and advocating for this funding. So that's been really fun. And I've been working with Jake to really make sure we're staying on the timelines and stuff. So I'm kind of project managing the proposal. Lori and I are going to work together on the pieces that we can write and flesh out. And Jake has been really a key lead on the technical pieces. And then Ramble. So we did contract with Ramble. It was within the purchasing policy amount. So Gloria just went ahead, but we did pay them $5,000 to do a budget, like a formalized engineered budget. And they're doing some conceptual plans for us. So it'll look a little bit more beefy. So yeah, so we've been working with Ramble, Jake, and Gloria and me and Sarah. And we should, yeah, I was working on the timeline today.
Oh, great.
And as we were fleshing it out a little bit more today, if the trustees would like us to move forward with this, I guess it would be more of a resolution on the next meeting as well as a letter of support. So we're trying to get all of our pieces together and see what that looks like of what they need. But working regionally, sometimes you don't know what we're going to submit until after the next meeting, the regional meeting. So it's either going to be a resolution or a letter of support.
Questions, opposition, concerns? Okay,
Yeah.
Right.
wish us luck.
Good luck, guys.
And man, Anthony and I advocated hard, I gotta tell you. But Plata was kind of like, but that's way more money than we're asking for. And we're like, well, our projects are better.
We need it. Do we need to give direction or we just already did?
Yeah, just direction.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Direction to move forward. Okay,
And we also wanted to inform you what we've been up to.
thank you. It's the fun part of the job.
Well,
All right, great. Moving on to the consent agenda.
I do want to point out, I did look at the meeting minutes and his comment is in there.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying. Any other questions on the consent agenda? There's a letter of support in there for the Silverton Creative District going for creative district status. Otherwise, we could have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Hey, roll call please, Melina?
Trustee Halverson?
Yes.
Trustee Wakefield?
Yes.
Trustee Gardner?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Pro Tem Harper?
yes.
And Cranker?
Yes. Great, thanks, guys. All right, moving on to staff reports.
Okay, I just wanted to get clarity on the resolution for the Learning Center to be presented next meeting. How long would you like that exemption to be? So I was going to write it for a year, but I wanted to gut check that with you all.
Mhm.
Yeah, we start for a year and then we can reevaluate.
Okay, great. As I was doing my notes, I was like, wait a minute. One question. And then I would like to request a work session on May 5th at 5 PM to review our EQRs and go over some potential changes from staff and then also help explain some of our, like, our administration fees and stuff like that. So wanted to request that. One of the biggest things we're having is what our definition of an ADU is as well. And so wanted to kind of, Steve and I have some ideas that we want to pass by you.
I think that's a really great idea. I mean, I've chatted a bit with community members. I think there's just a lot we can do. One, around education and clarifying. It seems like there's questions that people would like clarified. Two, hear from Steve and staff after having did EQRs for a billing cycle and kind of like what worked, what didn't. Like, what are the pain points we're hearing? What are things we didn't anticipate that are that's coming up? And so I think being able to have that opportunity to learn, this board seems very open to like learning and saying, okay, what's working, what's not, how are we moving forward? I think that could be really helpful.
Yeah. I am available on May 5th.
Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
But not a- Is the definition of ADUs changing?
No, but we've had some weird circumstances where we're like, we don't know where to classify this one.
Okay.
So we want to kind of come up with that and figure that out. So we have more direction on how to implement that.
Okay.
I think we could have an EQR pinata.
A what?
An EQR pinata.
Okay, there we go. Yes, I got a unicorn. Does that work?
Oh, Lindsay, I see you're off mute. Did you want to say anything?
No, I'm sorry. I was just laughing at your joke.
And then the other one I wanted to check and see if we'll have a quorum on Tuesday, May 27th. That's our scheduled meeting after Memorial Weekend, so it's not on that Monday, it's on that Tuesday. And I just wanted to see before I start scheduling stuff out, if we're have a meeting that day.
How about thumbs up if you're here, thumbs down if you're not here?
May 27th.
It's the Tuesday after Memorial Day.
I'm here.
Okay, that's a maybe. That's a maybe. So the other option is we could cancel that meeting if needed. Just because I haven't scheduled anything for that date and I wanted to gut check with you all before I started going down that route.
I suspect I think they have teacher retreat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe reschedule.
that's what I was worried about.
Lindsay's a yes. She's gonna be there, it looks like.
That's what happens when you have to open up a shop, you know? Gotta be here.
I mean, I'll be here.
Okay, so no, maybe, and another no. So we would have potentially 4 out.
Yeah.
So I might just cancel that meeting and everything would go to our next meeting in June.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, so no meeting on Tuesday, the 27th. Okay,
Works right now, because as I'm scheduling everything out, I just want to make sure I don't anyone any promise.
work session on Tuesday or Monday, the 5th. Is there a preference on timing from the board? I know, Lindsay, sometimes it's hard for you, like right at 5 o'clock, like, does it work better at 5:30 or do from 6 to 7 or? And I'm also thinking of other people who are working if we're including the public.
That's my question is like, are we really trying to get a lot of public involvement here? Or is this like trying to work through some of those like EDU questions? Both?
I think since it's a work session, it would definitely. This is, I mean, Gloria and I can work through the agenda, but I see an opportunity to, one, just provide an overview on EQRs, because all of our discussions on EQRs have been very connected to town meetings, which have multiple agenda items, are hard for people to digest and get into. And so I think it could be informational. I think it could be, what have we learned so far? And I think it could be public comment would be helpful. And then I think it's really then a work session for the board to kind of talk through, what have we heard from staff? What have we heard from the public? What have we learned?
Staff being here too to answer those questions.
Yeah. So I think it's definitely, we want public engagement. It's the public's chance to hear more about EQ, have questions, concerns, thoughts, and share that public comment. So, yeah, I think we want.
And I would propose 6. 5 is hard for people. 7 gets late.
Yeah. Does the board 6 o'clock seem good? Work session? Okay, okay, great. Thanks. I just wanted to clarify before we scheduled it for 5 for sure. Okay, anything else on staff reports? Any questions for staff? No, a lot going on. Okay, all right, moving on to committee and board reports. Do we have any? No, anything we missed that we didn't write down? Okay. Trustee reports. I have a fun share. We're doing an Easter egg hunt with the school on Sunday from 11:30 to 12:30 in the lawn courthouse, in the lawn of the courthouse. And Willie said it may be one of the first Easter egg hunts where you could see the lawn.
Well, I don't know. It's supposed to snow on Saturday.
A weekend. Yeah. So Easter egg hunt for the community on Sunday. Oh,
Okay, good. I think we can afford the real eggs.
a lot of plastic eggs. Yeah, no, we're not hiding real eggs. That's costing. Yep. Any other trustee reports? Okay, all right, continued business 9A library board appointment.
All right, so we did talk about this at our March meeting. We solicited for a library board appointment, and in that time, Megan Brush has also stepped down. And we did receive 2 interests in the board, so that kind of hopefully makes it very easy for you all. And we could appoint the 2 women that we received our letters of interest from to the library board.
Kind of easy when there's 2 letters and there's 2 positions.
Yeah. Okay.
Any questions, concerns from the board?
See you. And we only have 2 applicants. So I'll make a motion to appoint Louise Rita Contino and Karen Sarabak Sites to the library board.
Okay.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Halverson,
Yes.
trustee Wakefield,
Yes.
trustee Gardner,
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harper,
Yes.
Mayor Pinker.
Yes. Great. Okay, now we're moving on to 9B. This is a public hearing. This is second reading for adoption of ordinance 2025-04. So we'll open this up as a public hearing. First, we'll have info from staff, then we'll take public comment on this item, and then we'll have trustee deliberation and discussion, and then decision. Take it away, Lucy. Thanks for being here.
Yes, of course. So this is an ordinance to adopt a program to allow qualifying workforce to occupy RVs in the summer months. This ordinance was developed over the course of many P&O and board meetings. And you will see in your packet a track change version of the ordinance reflecting the condition included in your motion during the first reading, which was to strike provision 2D. So unless you have any initial questions or would like me to dive into anything specific, I'll hand it back over to you to open public comment.
Thanks, Lucy. All right, we'll open up for public comment on this ordinance, this second reading. Do we have any in-person public comment on the RV ordinance? Great.
Paul Zimmerman, once again. And on water billing, how will that be? Obviously, from what I've heard at last meeting, a gentleman came and spoke at the beginning also who said his ADU was charged at an extra 3/4 EQR, if that's correct. Are we going to do the same with these? And are they going to make sure that everybody that's doing this has proper infrastructure? I know last year there was a Facebook going around of somebody dumping gray water as they drove off of somebody's property. And that should definitely not be allowed. Otherwise, I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, obviously we need all the housing we can, but they should also be paying the water rates the rest of us are that are kicking our butts, and I'm here whining about every meeting now. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Do we have any other in-person public comment about this ordinance?
And thank you for your patience for waiting this time.
I don't call it patience, but sure. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment on Zoom related to this ordinance? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Lucy, did you want to provide any clarification on billing and what we have in the ordinance around infrastructure?
Yeah, for sure. So if this ordinance is adopted, what we would do is at a later meeting, bring up a resolution to apply an EQR to the RVs. And it has been recommended by the Public Works Department that we would apply a 0.4 EQR to RVs occupied by workforce. And so that conversation would come up at a meeting in the future where we could get more into the details of those numbers.
Thanks, Lucy. All right, any questions from the board since the first reading? Concerns, comments? Again, the main change is that we struck the provision that it had to be an owner occupied RV. We said someone else can own the RV and a worker can occupy it. And I think that frees up more housing, more opportunities. Any other questions for Lucy or comments to be made on this ordinance?
It's been a long time coming.
It's been a lot of meetings, yeah.
And, you know, just for the clarification too, there needs to be an existing infrastructure, water, sewer on the property the RV is going to be at already.
Demi? All right, well, there's a couple of motions possible on page 170.
There's no additional conditions.
If we add the say something else on that?
No, so that'll be presented at another meeting. So it has 30 days until it's enacted. So we would probably present that on May, or actually probably at the next meeting.
Got it.
Yeah, it has to be a separate resolution.
And Lucy, go ahead. Were you going to say we don't need conditions this time because they've been made?
Yes, yeah, I was just gonna say, the motion says as presented, and that means as presented in your packet, which reflects the conditions you all made last time.
Terrific.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance of the town of Silverton, Colorado, amending chapter 15, land use code, Silverton Municipal Code, addressing the seasonal occupancy of recreational vehicles for qualifying workforce as presented.
Second.
Oh, please, Lena.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry, yes. Sorry, it was, yes.
Trustee Wakefield,
Yes.
trustee Gardner,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Pro Tem Harper.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, staff. Thank you, everybody. All right, we're on to agenda item 10, closing public comment. You can make another public comment if you would like. And if you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment, please click the raise hand button. And again, if you have comments on EQRs, come on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo with us.
I'll be there. If I can make another comment. Back on the EV chargers. Government's not here to be in business. We will end up subsidizing those. They will not get used probably a quarter of what they have estimated. Please don't do, I mean, if they do it and it doesn't cost us a dime, I'm all for it. But if the town takes it over, I think we'll lose money. We'll end up subsidizing it, just like the goofy showers I have to compete with over there, which we probably put $10 in for every shower taken. So I would be against that, but.
Thank you.
Any other in-person public comment? All right, any public comment on Zoom? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment and we'll adjourn the meeting. It is 8:27.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.